My mother was a real lady of faith, and I was blessed to be able to record a number of her stories. Um, she told one story that I'm going to share with you here about how she learned about what death is like, and according to the Bible and the Sabbath. And I'll share that with you here, but I need to give you a little background story. First of all, what had happened was that the pastor's daughter had died, and to comfort her little brother, they told him that Jesus wanted the little sister, and that's why he had called her home. And the little boy cried, not for the reasons that we might think, but because Jesus didn't want him. So she was discussing this with a friend, Mary Brown, and also with the pastor's wife. That's where the story begins.
A millionaire's son who had committed suicide, and your dad was upset about it. And that's when she said, well, Paul's writings are too difficult for us to understand. Yeah. So she just threw out Thessalonians. And Mary was in this class. Mm-hmm. And I said to her, well, our children won't accept this, that this isn't what the Bible says, because it definitely says that's when we will go to be with the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Mary started asking me questions then.
Okay, well, I had the impression that she had been there before you.
She had been going to the Methodist church. Your dad had met her in his class. And then when Clarence Thomas, the patient, when he came to sunrise service 2 years in a row with this young woman who was the companion to the millionaire's daughter, and she sang in the choir with us at 35 years old, and she started going with Clarence, and Clarence's wife came to the office.
My dad was a dentist.
She was a patient, and she said, I'm just brokenhearted. Clarence has been going with this younger woman. She says that she can have children for him. He didn't have any children. I think it was his second marriage. And the pastor had told Sally Doris, who was in charge of the Vacation Bible School, that this woman could get the material that she had given her back from her because she wasn't qualified to teach our children in Vacation Bible School.
Well, at least somebody still had some note of that back then.
Yeah, but then after that, he took him into membership, no questions asked. And that Sunday, your dad called him, and I was sitting there, and he said, on what basis did he come into membership? We didn't ask him any questions. And he says, well, I joined Kiwanis Club, and they don't ask questions, but that's just a civic club, you know. Which says, I think a little more is expected of the church. And this Pastor Nelson said, well, ye without sin cast the first stone. Well, he knew that your dad was drinking. So was our head Elder Lapham, the head of the deacons or whatever. Anyway, that's how it began. Actually, I first heard that the day was changed in history, U.S. history at Indiana University, when I was only about 20 years old.
What do you remember when you read Great Triumph of God's Love?
What?
What do you remember that hit you when you read The Triumph of God's Love?
Well, I remembered that Elder Anderson, this little Quaker professor that had marched down to the center of the big auditorium room that we met history.
There was a large class, huh?
Yeah, it was a big class. And he marched down and he says, "Now, I am a Constantine, and I'm marching my army into the river. And when they come out of the river, I tell them, you are now Christians." He saw this sign in the sky, in this sign conquer, and he baptized them in the river. They didn't know anything about it, but I had been a former Baptist, and I said, yeah. Ooh.
Did you consider yourself a Baptist at that time?
I was a kind of a mixed Protestant.
Okay.
I had attended just about every Protestant denomination at Indiana. I wanted to see what they preached in their pulpits. So I went to all these churches. So it was a revelation to me that this is what had happened.
So mostly
an emperor had changed the day from Sabbath to Sunday, and he was a sun worshiper.
Yeah.
And then the Catholic Church thought this was a good idea. It would bring members into the church. And
at this point, she returned to explaining what happened with my dad.
And your dad turned to Elder Nelson. Turned the phone, and he said, "Well, you've gained one new member today, but you've lost another one." He says, "I don't know what my wife wants to do, but she has my permission to take the children and go where she wants to go." And I had been reading The Great Controversy, and also I think I had attended church a couple of times. So I knew where I wanted to go.
Do you remember what your impressions were when you went to church the first time?
I took Roseanne with me, and I sat in the class with her in Sabbath school, and they had these little rainbows. They were singing, "God made the beautiful rainbow. I know, I know." And she just loved it. She was 4 years old. And I thought, they didn't teach the children. I helped in the kindergarten department at the Methodist church, and they weren't teaching them anything. They put a record on this, "I'm a little teapot, short and stout."
So you're saying that church, it was very different in the Sabbath school.
Yeah, it was happy and singing, and they had little things that the children could do with their hands, and they really were enjoying it.
And it was Bible based.
And it was Bible based. And so Roseanne told Mark about it when she got home. "I went to, it's a wonderful place." And Mark went the next week. And he liked, Sister Dumont was teaching, and I think there was a man there too. And he really liked the lessons. And he started reading his Bible and going over to the Jewish people down the street from Grandma. And they told Grandma, "He knows more about our Bible than we do." He was 7.
Yeah, I guess the first teacher I remember was Bessie Spate.
Yeah, she was a sweet lady.
Oh, yeah.
Got run over by a bus.
Really?
It was right after she had had the flu shot, and she never was the same after she had that flu shot. Also, Betty, what's her name, had the flu shot, and she never felt as good after that. I don't know whether that was a year that flu shot missed the particular flu that was going around or what, but
it's a guess.
An
educated guess is the best they can do.
Yeah.
Precious memories talking with my mom.